Hello and welcome to this week's installment of Sunday School, a beginner's guide to fountain pens. I often work in a stationery shop and I get asked lots of questions, and I wanted to cover stuff from those sort of practical questions in this video series. Now, I've spoken a lot about these kinds of things in the past. I've even made videos that are pretty similar to some of these, but I thought it'd be great to readdress them and hopefully make them really easy to find. So clearly this series is aimed at new fountain pen users. These aren't for the experienced people out there, and everyone's got their own ways of doing a lot of stuff and their own thoughts on a lot of this. I just hope that this series will help those newbie fountain pen users, those people just taking their first steps into the hobby or wanting to explore beyond the standard, little cartridge they get from their stationery store, and help them find a way into this wonderful hobby that we all enjoy. So today's question is, when should I clean my fountain pen? Now, this is a big question. It's an important question. Pen hygiene and looking after your pens is super important if you want to maintain a really beautiful, expressive writing experience. Now, a lot of this will depend if you use cartridges, if you use bottled ink, if you're changing ink using the same ink, and also the kind of ink you are using. So we'll start there. If you are using inks that are pigmented inks, and I don't mean drawing inks or writing inks, those kinds of things, they are not for fountain pens. I'm talking about, pigmented inks like platinum carbon black or, some of the kakimori inks and those kinds of things. If you are using those inks, you need to clean your pen more regularly. The pigment in those inks will gummy up the feed and the nib after a period of time. As the water evaporates from that ink, you are left with like a sediment of the pigment. So it's always really, really good to, after every little while, flush that pen out. And I actually suggest that if you're using those inks, that you more or less flush your pen between inkings. So if you write the pen dry, flush it out, let it dry, then re-ink it. It just means that, the pen hygiene is kept kind of up to date. The other question is, are you using cartridges? If you're using cartridges, my general rule is every few cartridges, and this sort of goes for fills with a bottle of ink as well, every few fills, you flush the pen. You're going to get rid of things like paper fibers in the nib. You're going to get rid of any sort of stuff that's sort of getting around. It's actually more important if you are filling from a bottle of ink with the pen, the nib in the pen, because if you are filling from a bottle of ink and you get stuff in that ink, you are contaminating that ink. If you're using a Lamy Safari and the cartridge runs dry, you pull that out, you put a new one in, you're fine, you're good to go. That's not a concern. If you're filling from a bottle, you may want to consider flushing that pen out more regularly. And of course, the general rule is anytime you change ink or ink color, you should probably clean out your pen. Now, in terms of ink color, if you're staying within brands, we'll use Lamy as the example again. If you're changing from Lamy blue to Lamy black, then the only issue you're going to have is that the initial little period of writing with that pen, you may see a bit of a murky color that is a mix of the two until the initial ink is sort of flushed through and you're into the new ink. But if you are changing ink brand, it is really advised that you flush and clean the pen really thoroughly before changing ink, because different inks have different chemical makeups and they can react in a not so great way with each other. The other time you must clean your pen is before you put it into storage. So if you rotate through a pen collection, and let's say once again you're using a Lamy Safari and you want to move to your Pilot Metropolitan, then when you are changing, clean the Safari, let it dry absolutely properly. Leave it for an extra day to what you think you might need, and then put it into storage. If there's no moisture, you're just looking after the pen, and of course you don't want to leave ink in the pen and put it into storage, even an empty pen that still has like ink remains in it, because that is going to make inking the pen and using the pen far more difficult next time you want to. So those are my general rules about when to clean your fountain pen, and that goes for all kinds of fountain pens, different filling systems, and don't mix your inks unless you know it's safe to. And of course, just, try not to contaminate ink bottles by putting a dirty pen into that ink bottle. So there you have it. I hope this was interesting and useful. Please like and subscribe, hit the notifications button. all that kind of stuff. If you'd like to support the channel, I would really love to hear from you. In the meantime, enjoy your pens, enjoy writing, and I'll talk to you soon.